So I'm going to ask you this. If I ask every single employee in your office, what are we building? Would I hear one answer or would I hear 10? All right, my friends, the Ultimate OD podcast, we are talking about vision today. Yes, an optometrist is talking about vision, but not the one with your eyes, the one for the future. We have the closing call of the episode. This is the Ultimate OD podcast. Here we go. All right, my friends, the Ultimate OD podcast. Thanks for the likes, the listens, all my fellow Ultimate ODs out there that are trying to be the best version of themselves. If you listen to the, I think, July 10th episode of the Power Hour, you'll get an update on the state of optometry and how the industry is doing. And from the consensus, it's not great right now, right? Consumer sentiment is a little down. We can overcome that. Good businesses thrive and excel in tougher economic times. I want you to be one of those offices. I want my office to be one of those offices. And when it comes to doing that, I think it really comes back to the basics. Just doing the fundamental things that make your business run. And that's kind of the foundation or motivation, the inspiration behind this episode. So I just got done reading a book called Ride of a Lifetime about Bob Iger, the CEO of, or former CEO of Disney. And it was a great read. I really enjoyed it. And it's really cool to see what a big Fortune 500 CEO does with their time, how they view things and grow their business. We always talk, at least the past year and a half, about being the CEO of our practice. And I'm trying to read as much information as I possibly can about what CEOs do, how they think, how they operate. And he was great. During his tenure, he acquired Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilms, and a big portion of Fox. Those are 4 big swings that he made happen. And people will talk about those acquisitions and what they did, how he did it. But the thing I took away most was in every single instance, he met with the leader, the CEO of Pixar, of Marvel, Lucasfilm, Fox, and he sold them his vision for how their company would be part of his company and grow. He had the foresight to see what he wanted that company to be within Disney and got the CEO of the other company to believe. Pixar is a great example because Pixar was thriving. You know, there was talks at the time that Pixar should acquire Disney for certain aspects of what they did and how cutting edge Pixar was. Disney Animation was kind of a foregone conclusion. They were the old dog where Pixar was new, cutting edge. They were leading the industry. So Pixar had all the leverage, but when Bob met with Steve Jobs, talked about the plan, he got Steve to believe. He got the John Lasseter and Ad Catmull to see how they could be part of Disney. And remember, Disney is a huge corporation, and a lot of people growing up aspired to be part of that, and he gave them that vision. And it wasn't just in those instances, but every single time I looked at what Iger was doing is selling his vision. That elevator speech in that 30 seconds to a minute, he could get people to believe in what he was doing. His staff, his employees, people he's trying to acquire. That was the secret sauce that I took from his memoir. And yeah, he had to have strategic planning. He had to have a good team around him. But all of those people needed the vision too. He had a vision. And the cool thing is, at that level, he was constantly selling it. At our level, we have to do the same thing because vision degrades. Vision leaks. It's not consistent. People don't follow plans. They follow pictures of the future. And a picture of the future is the vision that you are putting out into the ether every single time you talk to the company, talk to your staff. And a lot of people think that the vision is for the owner. I know where we're going. I have a vision. We just have to do what I say. But the real question is, does your office manager, do the opticians, do the techs, do your associate doctors, do they know the vision? Do they know the why behind your decisions? Do they know where the practice is headed? If they're not buying in, your strategy is going to fall apart. Your initiatives aren't going to work. You're probably going to be going in a different direction because they don't understand it. And that goes back to the realization I had that a vision that's sitting in your head that only you know has zero relevance, zero benefit, right? If you aren't able to convey it to someone else and get them to believe in what you're trying to build, what you're creating, there's zero chance they're going to be able to convey that to a patient. You have to get them to believe so they can be your message spreaders. And honestly, the real thing is, this is kind of like a goal without a deadline is just a dream. A vision isn't real until people start making decisions because of it. And that's your staff, your associates, all the people I laid out. If they can't think of what their decision they're making right now, how it affects where the company's going, you don't have a vision. And the more I read about CEOs, the more I transition to the CEO of my practice, the more I realize that people need to be reminded more than they're taught. Let me say that again. People need to be reminded more than they're taught. Early on in my management career, leading an office, early on when my manager took over, she would think, well, we already told them, they get it. No. Do you have kids? If you're listening, if you have kids, you can say it a million times and they don't hear it until like the 47th time. It's like you said it once. Leadership isn't just teaching once, it's repeating until it becomes culture. I've got to the point where I talk about my core values, I talk about customer service, the way that we treat patients, and I talk about dry eye. Every quarter gives you about 3 meetings where you have the all hands on deck. And I just keep repeating those 3 meetings. When I have department meetings on a weekly basis, I'm not saying many new things. I'm reiterating that we need to kill the handoff. We need to transfer trust amongst the technicians, the doctors, the opticians. The patient journey needs to be continuous. I am saying the same thing over and over and over again. And that's why it's working. It's because that's our culture. Every week, our patients go through our process. They experience our office once a year. Quality and consistency is one of our core values, and we keep it the same, quality and consistency. You have to operate at a certain quality, and it has to be the same amongst everyone. Well, if you're good on a Monday, Tuesday is a completely different set of patients that's not going to see you again for a year. Doing the same thing over and over and over again at a high level is what sets great businesses, great optometric practices apart from average ones. Average optometric practices, it can vary from patient to patient in a single day. I've been there. I've worked in those environments. Not how I want to operate my business. I want every single patient to get the same quality and consistency of care. Handoffs. Our dry eye center of excellence. New associate has come in and he is getting force-fed the basics of what we do. Open, connect with the patient. Refract, slit lamp. You need to close and mirror what they said in the opening. And then transfer that information to the optician at the handoff. It's not rocket science, but can you do that every single time over and over and over again? That's my vision. That's what I want the patient experience to be like. That foundation is what we're basing everything else off of. Our core values, when you look at what we do, that aligns with what I just described to you. Care, quality and consistency, expertise, timeliness, and a team environment. That all applies to that full circle, continuous care model. That's the vision that I keep beating into my staff's head, into my own head. At the end of the day, is this what we are doing? New hire that's coming on. It's going to be an optician. We'll hear that every single day the first week and probably thereon after. At least some version of it. But we won't stop repeating it. Do you guys have a vision that your staff can reiterate? Because culture is simply repeated vision. I get asked a lot about how you create a culture. How you get them to fall in line. How do you make this happen? And I'm telling you right here, that's how I do it. Consistency and repeating your vision, your messaging. It's not rocket science. It's not flashy. We want something flashy, a 5-step system. 3 easy steps to instill in your culture. It's just consistently repeating the same message and following through with it. When you have this vision, every role needs to have a purpose. My front desk isn't answering phones, they're creating first impressions. My technicians, they're not pre-testing, they're preparing trust. Opticians aren't selling glasses, they're completing the treatment. My associates, they're not just seeing patients, they're developing lifelong relationships. That's the messaging that I'm putting forth to my team every single day. And you start repeating it, you start seeing good things happen, and it starts to click. And you're like, this is really what it takes? I've been saying this for years, but it's how you tie it into their roles, tie it into what they do on a daily basis. Your staff will perform differently when they understand why their role matters, how they fit into the vision, how they fit into the system where you want to be. And when we started this journey together to figure out what a CEO does, you think, A, they make decisions, they build systems, manage our finances. Those matter, they do. But the most important thing before you do any of that is you create belief. Because if people believe, execution follows. And if they don't believe in what you're doing, not a single system in the world will fix it. Our job is to make tomorrow so clear that the staff knows what to do today. You've created such a vivid picture of how you're going to operate, the world that we execute in, that they know what to do today. So I'm going to ask you this. If I ask every single employee in your office, what are we building? Would I hear one answer or would I hear 10? How vivid is your vision? And that matters. It's not whether you, the doctor, the CEO, has a vision. It's if your staff can repeat it and believe in it. And don't fall into the trap of thinking that a vision is something that you just announce and it happens. Well, I told them to do it. I asked them if they knew our core values and they could repeat them to me. Do they know how their role applies to those values? Where they affect the piece of the puzzle that makes it the actual picture. How they're creating the world you want to operate in. Vision is something you repeat until it becomes how your people think. That's how you develop culture. Now, the next thing I'm going to go into next week is not vision, but purpose. Vision will answer where we're going, but purpose will answer why does my work matter. That's what I have. We'll have more for you next week. Where has the time gone? We are to the closing thought of the episode, and I'll leave you with this. What is a privilege? Well, what a privilege to be tired from work you once prayed for. What a privilege to feel overwhelmed by growth you used to dream about. What a privilege to be challenged by a life you created on purpose. What a privilege to outgrow things you used to settle for. I've thought a lot about this as the business has grown, as my identity has changed, as I've gotten new opportunities that stress me out at times, that take up my time, that make me have to question how much time can I spend in the exam room. Yes, these are problems that I'm trying to navigate through, but they are a privilege to have. And I think too often we get what we dreamed about. And when we get it, it's suddenly a burden or not something that we're excited about. It's a challenge. But if you take a step back and remember where you were, and then look at all of the people that would love to be in your spot, to have your problems, have those issues be their day to day, gives you perspective. And it kind of makes you remember what a privilege it is to have the problems you have today. And I want you to have that perspective as you go through the second half. If you hear the economic forecast or you didn't have a great first half of the year, it's a privilege to be in the position to make a change, to lead your team through this time. Because some people didn't get this far. Some people will never take the chance, but you did, and that's a privilege. That's what I have for you. We'll have more for you next week. Dr. Lily out.